Anitya drishyeshu vivicya nityam tasmin samadhatte asmalilaya viveka vairagya vishuddha chittam yaso viveki tamaham namami viveka jananda nimagna chittam viveka danaika vinoda shilam viveka bhasa kamaniya kantim vivekinam tam satatam namami ritancha vijnanamadishrayat yat nirantaram chadimadhantahinam sukham surupam prakruti yasya anandamurtim tamam namami. A hymn on Vivekananda. To him who's shifting out the eternal form, the transitory phenomena of this world, made it is a sport to concentrate thereon his mind, purified by discrimination and renunciation. To that discriminating soul I salute. To him whose mind was immersed in the bliss that comes of discrimination, whose nature delighted solely in kindling discrimination in others, and whose beauty was made winsome by the glow of discrimination, to that discriminating soul my salutations ever go. To him whose graceful form, truth and knowledge made their abode, and which imparts a joy incessant, without beginning or end, to that embodiment of bliss I salute. Om Shanti, 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 peace, peace, peace be unto all. This morning our subject is Vivekananda after the Parliament of Religions. Today we are observing Swami Vivekananda's birthday anniversary. Today exactly is his birthday. Swamiji. Swami Vivekananda was born on 12th January 1863. Passed away 4th July 1902, at the age of 39. He lived in this world 39 years, 5 months, 24 days. Very short life. But he says, I have given enough for 1500 years to the thinking humanity. His contribution in the world's thought was immense. He got Western education just like we are born and brought up in British India. And India was at that time under the British, French and Portuguese. We got freedom in 1947. So, very westernized, we taught him, don't accept anything without evidence. That was the basis of Western education. Do not accept anything without evidence. Does God exist? I want evidence. So he went to Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna says, God exists. I saw God, I can show you also. That changed his life. Not only I can see, I can show you. Very convincing. Vivekananda became his disciple, testing him right and left. And he passed all tests. Then in 1886, Ramakrishna passed away. Vivekananda became a monk. Established Ramakrishna monastery. Traveled all over India from 1887 to 1893. Most of the places he walked on foot. Then he heard about the parliament in Gujarat. He heard about the Parliament of Religions in Chicago. Some of his friends advised him, requested him to go and present Hinduism or Vedanta at the Parliament of Religions. So Swamiji left India 31st May 1893 from Bombay. Came to Vancouver 25th July. Came to Chicago, I think 30th July. Via St. Paul, Winnipeg and St. Paul, by train. Then he heard that Chicago Parliament of Religion will start in September. He did not have much money. He went to a hotel, exorbitant cost. He said, my all money will go away, nobody knows me, I shall starve here. Luckily he met a woman, Catherine Sanborn from Boston. I went to her home. It is in Breezy Meadows, outskirts of Boston. So he got his address, her address, and went to her home and stayed there for a month and a half and saved money so that he will not have to go to a hotel. Struggle. He did not have any credential. If you want to be present at the parliament, you need credential. So he met a person who was the Greek professor of Harvard University, Professor John Henry Wright. He knew some people in the parliament and introduced him, sent him a letter, credential. Well, here is a man who knows more than all our philosophers, all of our professors together. He has so much knowledge and wisdom. Swamiji came to Chicago, back again in September. What was happening? This Parliament of Religions of Chicago. It was 400 years completion of the Columbus's discovery of America. Columbus came to America in 1492, and it was 1892. The American people wanted to demonstrate the advancement of science and technology and started this huge Columbian exposition in Chicago. Huge, really it is huge. I have volumes and volumes of that exposition in my room. They have 20 branches of that Columbian exposition. They are all subsidiary, or you may call it auxiliary branches of the exposition. And religion is one of them. So, Mr. Charles Boney, he was a lawyer. He became the president of that section. What did they do? It is a unique thing in the history of the world, that the American people brought all religions on the same stage. It never happened. Never happened. There are 9 non-Christian religions are on the stage. Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, Judaism, Islam, Zoroastrianism, Confucianism, and Shintoism. They are not Christians. They are all on the same platform. Archbishop of Canterbury, England, he declined to come to the conference. Well, no, we cannot sit on the same platform with other religions. Christianity is the highest. He did not come. Very amazing. The conference continued for 17 days. from 11th September to 27th September. 3 sessions every day, 2.5 hours to 3 hours. And it took place in the Art Institute in Chicago. Adjacent there was a hall called Hall of Columbus. And adjacent there was a Hall of Washington. When it was overcrowded, they will open both halls. 4,000 to 5,000 people could sit. Always remember, that time there is no microphone. There is a gallery. I have the pictures of all this Hall of Columbus. I have all pictures. Amazing. On the opening day, Swamiji was very nervous. He deferred. No, please come and speak. No, later. Whole morning sessions over. Towards the afternoon, Swamiji got up. He was very nervous. Never gave a public lecture in English. Second, most of the speakers are very intelligent. They wrote paper and read the paper. Swamiji did not have any paper. He spoke extempore. So he got up and addressed sisters and brothers of America. That created a tremendous commotion and applause. People, 2-3 minutes, they clapped. And Swamiji became famous. It is only 5 minutes, that opening talk. I shall not talk about it, but it is in the Chicago address, you can read it. How people addressed, very interesting. Mr. President Boni said, worshippers of God and lovers of man. Dr. Barrows, who was the secretary of the conference, he addressed, Mr. President and friends. Pratap Mujumdar from the Brahmo Samaj addressed, leaders of the Parliament of Religions, men and women in America. Dharmapal, a Buddhist representative, addressed friends. Birchand Gandhi, he was a Jain. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen. Then Swamiji said, sisters and brothers of America, and got the applause. B.B. Nagarkar of Bombay, theistic movement, addressed the audience, brothers and sisters in the Western home. Perhaps he tried to imitate a little bit of Swamiji. Now there is a miracle. He becomes very famous. When he sees many men, many women, especially young women, they wanted to shake hands with him. So Mrs. Blodgett, S.K. Blodgett from Los Angeles, she was present. She saw the onslaught, how the people are moving toward him. She said, hello, young man, if you can overcome the attack of these women, then I shall consider you that you are God. Somebody asked later, Swamiji, did you show any miracle? No. Do you know what he said? Listen. Let me tell you that I did have a power, and this is it. Never once in my life did I allow myself to have even one sexual thought. I trained my mind and thinking and the powers that man usually uses along that line. I put into a higher channel, and it developed a force so strong nothing could resist it. His purity. It was in 1894, in April, Mr. Dharmapal, who was the representative of Buddhism, he is originally from Sri Lanka, but he was the founder of the Mahabodhi Society in Calcutta. He told Calcutta people, behind Vivekananda's success, he mentioned 3 things. First, uncommon command of English language. Beautiful, his expression, his lecture was fantastic, his language. Second, supreme tolerance of religion. He spoke on behalf of all religions. Third, his wonderful renunciation electrified the audience. Amazing that who is Swami Vivekananda. He further mentioned that in Chicago, that time, on the sidewalk, you see, there are posters of Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda, the Hindu monk of India. I have the pictures of those posters. One of the original posters still exists in Berkeley Center. It came from Chicago. All the American newspapers flashed next day all over the country. At that time there was no radio or television. Newspaper was very powerful media. All over the country, newspapers flashed Vivekananda's great success. On that day, Swamiji was invited, all the delegates are invited in a banquet. Swamiji returned late. It was arranged by the Parliament of Religions, the secretary, that different people of Chicago hosted different delegates. So Swamiji was the host, was a guest of Mr. J. Lyon, 262 Michigan Avenue, their house. They are very rich people. They have sugar plantation in Louisiana, Southerners. So some of our relatives, their relatives came from Louisiana to attend the parliament. So when Swamiji came late at night, Mrs. Lyon opened the door. All went to bed. It was late, Swamiji came. And opened the door and took Swamiji to his bedroom. Seeing Swamiji, she was a little uncomfortable. Do you know why? Because her many family members are their guests. And seeing a Eastern person, that is a pagan, hidden in his guest, perhaps the Southerners will not like it. So she told her husband at night that, what will happen? Our guest house is full of guests, and we brought this strange Indian in our home. She was a little scared. Next morning, Mr. Lyon went to the reading room and found Swamiji was reading. Then he talked to him, and he came and told his wife, Emily, let all my guests go. This man will stay in our home. He is one of the most intelligent and brilliant men I have ever seen in my life. Let all my guests leave the house. Swamiji got a shelter in their house. That night, when Swamiji went to bed, that bed was so soft and cozy. He did not sleep. He cried. He cried that in my country, people are so poor, and I am now living in luxury. Fantastic. That is Swami Vivekananda. Swamiji spoke 6 times at the Parliament of Religions and 8 times in the scientific section. He was very, very popular. The audience, the authority, the people kept him at the end so that the audience will not go away. They used to announce, at the last Swami Vivekananda will speak, then all audience will stay. He was so popular. After the Parliament of Religions, of course, Mrs. Lyon was just like mother to Swamiji. Then Swamiji said, Madam, I fell in love something in your country. Then Mrs. Lyon said, who is she, Swami? Oh, it is not a woman. It is your organization. How beautifully you people organize. In India, we do not know how to organize. Then another time, Mrs. Lyon cautioned Swamiji, seeing he was a very beautiful, handsome person. You can see his face. I remember one girl I was in Hollywood. One girl said, Swami, I love Vivekananda better than Ramakrishna. I said, why? He's very handsome, Swami. He is very handsome. Anyhow, so she cautioned, be careful about American women, young women. Swami says, Madam, mother, don't worry. It is true, I am a poor monk. Sometimes I slept under the tree by the side of the road. And that is true, sometimes I slept in the palace. And the girls, they used to fan me at night. Swamiji told that how he was a friend of the many kings in India. Anyhow, well, I am all right, don't worry. Swamiji started to give lectures in Chicago and around Chicago. His topics, non-dualism, Vedanta, women of India, reincarnation, manners and customs of India. These are the main topics. Philosophy of Vedanta. Swamiji told his disciple that once in America, on the shore of Lake Michigan, I had Nirvikalpa Samadhi, merged with the infinite. But Master appeared before me and said, no, you cannot have Samadhi now. You have many things to do. And brought back me. That happened when I remember our center was near the Michigan Lake. So sometimes I used to go for a walk, beautiful walk. Lakeshore Drive, cross it. On the shore you can have a nice walk. Beautiful, beautiful. That area of Chicago. Swamiji was staying then first he became the guest of the Hill family, 541 Dearborn Avenue. That woman and that family was Swamiji's headquarters in America. Very nice people. They gave shelter to Swamiji. So from their home, sometimes Swamiji used to go for a walk. There's a Lincoln Park in Chicago. He used to go there every morning and sit on the bench. One American lady, she used to go for shopping with her 6-year-old daughter. So instead of taking the daughter for a walk, she said, he found that this Hindu person, perhaps he will be a good person to take care of my daughter. So he handed over the daughter to him and said, please look after my daughter, let me go and do my shopping, then I shall pick her up. Swamiji said, that will be fine. So Swamiji was a babysitter. You can think of that girl. Later on, that girl, when she was 14 or 15 years old, her mother showed her the picture of Vivekananda. Do you remember your friend when you were 6 years old? He is a very famous man, Swami Vivekananda. Yes, she remembered. And then she was married in Philadelphia, moved there, and she took initiation from Swami Akhilananda, Boston, became a great devotee. How Thakur works, It was in 1894. The Metropolitan Opera Company came to Chicago. Mademoiselle Calvé, the famous opera singer in France, world famous. Her Carmen made her famous, her acting on Carmen. So she wrote in her autobiography, My Life. Her daughter died from burn. Some fire killed her daughter. So she tried to commit suicide 4 or 5 times. I shall drown myself in the lake. Then one of our friends said, why don't you go to a person, an Indian, her friends, come and see him. Swamiji was the guest of her friend. So one day he entered Swamiji's study. He found Swamiji was seated there, bending his head down. And she was told, never talk to him until he asks any question to you. Very interesting. I shall read a little bit to you, then you see their conversation. Come, my child, don't be afraid, Swamiji told her. Then she writes, when I entered the room, I stood before him in silence for a moment. He was seated in a noble attitude of meditation, his robe of saffron yellow falling in straight lines to the floor, his head swathed in the turban bent forward, his eyes on the ground. After a pause, he spoke without looking up. My child, what a troubled atmosphere you have brought about you, become. It is essential. Then Swamiji went on talking about her life. But how do you know all these things about my life? You see, Swamiji was a yogi. He can read others' mind. He can see others' past, present, and future. So she marveled. She wondered. Then Swamiji, when she was leaving, Swamiji said, very beautiful, that be happy. Again, build up your health. Do not dwell in silence upon your sorrows. Transmute your emotions into some form of external expression. Your spiritual health requires it. Your art demands it. Do not ruin yourself. Come up. I remember another story of Swamiji and Kalve. She was, strong will, tremendous willpower. Swamiji said, you are not an individual. Well, I am an individual. I am very famous. Swamiji said, you were crying like a baby. That once a raindrop fell into the ocean and became a bubble, and it was floating. The ocean said, be one with me. The bubble said, no. I must preserve my individuality. You are like that. You are that Atman, that infinite. In this way, Swamiji talked to her and changed her life. Later, she traveled with Swamiji in Europe. Long story about Kalve. Then, John G. Rockefeller, very rich man in America, Rockefeller family, also came to know Swamiji in Chicago. One of his business partners was the host of Swamiji. There he came. Swamiji also told many things about his life. He marveled. And then Swamiji told him, you have plenty of wealth. Share with some poor people. He became mad. Who are you? If mendicant is giving advice to me, I am Rockefeller. Anyhow, later on, after a few days, he brought a newspaper. He gave a huge amount of money for some charitable organization. Then, hello, take, now give me a thanks. Swamiji said, no, I am not going to give you that. You should give me thanks that you gave the charity because I told you. Beautiful story of Rockefeller. In America, organization is necessary. Swamiji had no experience about American life. How this country functions, he had no idea. So somebody suggested, why don't you have a contract with a lecture bureau? Slayton Lyceum Bureau. These people will organize your lecture all over the country. They will give you some money. They will pay the lecture hall, and they will carry all of your expenses, traveling, everything. You will have to understand, at that time in America, people would travel by train. No aeroplane at that time, in 1890s. So, they used to take care of everything. Swamiji signed 3 years contract with this Slayton Lyceum Bureau. And these people are sending him to Madison, Minneapolis, Des Moines, Memphis, all over Midwest, traveling and traveling. With a gold-stone bag, and in the train, lecture, go, train, hotel, train, that he was doing. Speaking those subjects, Hinduism, manners and customs in India, especially women, and what happened? He was fighting against narrowness, bigotry, superstition. American people are brainwashed by the missionary people. How? American mother throws away their children in the mouth of the crocodile. Women are burned with their husbands in the fire. People commit suicide under the chariot. They are trying to create some simp, and we must save these heathens. So we need money. To convert one Indian, they used to spend $20,000 to $25,000. So all these news they put in the minds of the American men and women, especially women, and created something. And Swamiji was trying to present the true picture of India. There became the clash. After the lecture, questions and answers. This. Swamiji, some of the answers are so ridiculous, I shall read to you a little, then you will understand how Swamiji has to face. I remember that on his first visit to Detroit, when he was lecturing at the Unitarian Church, we are told that the Swami would be glad to answer the questions we might wish to ask. The questions were to be written and put in a box one night, and the Swami was to answer them publicly the evening following. Many of the questions submitted were serious, others were trivial and flat. Of course, some ninny asked the same old question about Hindu mothers throwing their babies to the crocodiles, etc. I noticed the Swami shrink as he read it, and then came a smile of merry mischief, and he told in a half-serious, half-comic manner how, when he was a baby, his mother took him to the Ganges, but that he was such a fat little baby, the crocodile refused to swallow me. And he added facetiously, whenever I feel badly about being such a fat monk, I think of how I was saved from the crocodile, and am comforted that then he suddenly became serious. Even Stern drew himself up proudly, and in tones of thunder hurled forth. But ladies and gentlemen, we, I assure you, never burned witches. This brought down the house, and there was cheer after cheer for an American audience. Everyone a joke on itself, and none of us are proud of the burning of witches in Salem. Anyhow, what Swamiji further said, do you know what he said? Sometimes he said, we hear that you threw away all the girls in the mouth of the crocodile? Of course, of course. Do you know what is happening? Girl's body is very soft and tender, juicy, so crocodiles love to eat them. And now there is no girls in India. Do you know what's happening? Now men are producing the babies. Now children are coming from the men's body because all women are gone. Crocodiles. Swamiji exposed these people. The Shoti Daho Prata, sometimes some women, burn themselves, but it was stopped by the government and it was law. Anyhow, there's some social customs is mentioned. So anyhow, he exposed all those things. Another thing Swamiji had to fight. When he told the American people that you are divine, you are not sinners. That is shocking for the Christian people. Because the doctrine of original sin is in their blood. We are sinners. Only Christ can save us. But Swamiji said, no, you are the Atman. You are that pure consciousness. That Swamiji told in the 19th September 1893 when he read the paper on Hinduism. Ye children of immortal bliss, sinners, it is a sin to call a man so. It is a standing libel of human nature. You are not sinners. You see, that clashed against Christianity and Vedanta. Swamiji said, when Adam fell, he fell from purity. He spoke about the divinity of human beings, women of India, cultures and customs, and reincarnation. As I said, that Hell family was Swamiji's great friend, and Swamiji used to call Mr. Hell Father Pope and his wife Mother Church, and they had 2 daughters and 2 their sisters-in-law. So all lived in the same family. These 4 girls are very devoted to Swamiji. We got many letters written to them, especially Mary Hell. Swamiji told them that you seem that that I feel that you were my relative in my previous birth. It is in Abhiggana Shaguntalam. Kalidasa says, seeing a person, if you feel some kind of closeness, affinity, that means there is some kind of relationship in the previous birth. The Hindus believe it. Then came missionary attacks. In Memphis, they did not allow Swamiji to in a restaurant. Oh, you were that color, body complexion, you cannot stay here, you cannot have food here. He went to a barber shop. No, we shall not attend you. Then, in restaurant he was rejected. Somebody says that why did you not give your real identity, that you are an Indian, you are not a black Negro. Ore Baba, in southern states, Negro, black, slaves. Swamiji said, I am not born to put a person down and make myself great. I am not born for that. He respected human beings all over the world. In February 1894, Swamiji was in Detroit and became the guest of Mrs. John J. Bugley, the wife of the ex-governor of Michigan. She was a respected, highly educated, cultured, open-minded woman. She gave a gala reception inviting Swamiji, inviting bishop, mayor, lawyer, business people, professors, and introduced them with Swamiji. Her granddaughter, 9 years old, went to this school. Her friends used to make hell in her life because Swamiji was the guest of their house. You know, so much social prejudice at that time. There also Swamiji spoke on the customs, manners and customs of India, women of India, divinity of man, ancient philosophers of India and their teachings. One rabbi, Grossman, in Temple Bethel, became Swamiji's friend. He defended Swamiji. In Detroit, there was a tremendous commotion. In Opera House, he was fighting against them. I shall read some portion to you, you will understand. These missionaries, some are in India, they came and said, "Oh, Vivekananda is speaking lie." But the Hindus do not pray because they are God, they are Brahman, does not have any form, does not have any ear. So God does not hear the Hindu prayer. They are telling all sorts of rubbish things to these people. One missionary said that the Hindus are the most idolaters in this whole world. On 15th March 1894, a person wrote in Detroit Journal, to convert one non-Christian to a Christian, we spent average $20,000 to $25,000. It is too much. Then he said, we missionaries, Western people, we sent wine to India and opium to China. They did not need it. Anyhow, he made all kinds of remarks. On 11th March 1894, at Detroit Opera House, Swamiji spoke on Christianity in India. Audience, 1,000 people. 2.5 hours he spoke. Swamiji exposed the English missionaries. Well, do you know what do they do? Some of our people are so poor. They do not have food. They do not have clothes. These missionary people convert them. Give them some food and clothes. This is the way they convert. Taking this advantage of our poverty, because we are under British rule. These missionaries do not know Indian scriptures. They are aristocrats. They have no love for India. If you say anything, they will kill you. But you know, there are some very wonderful, broad-minded, generous people in America. They're free thinkers. Swamiji met Thomas Palmer, very rich man. He was a senator of United States. He was very fond of Swamiji, and Swamiji became his guest. And Swamiji told that how I am cheated by these people, this lecture bureau. I made $2,700 in one lecture, they gave me only $200. In one lecture, I got $900, they gave me only $127. And they're exploiting me, they're taking advantage of me. Then this senator became mad. But I shall sever that contract. He came to Chicago and severed the contract, because he was a senator, powerful man, and saved Swamiji from that kind of contract. You see, in America, they're very legal-minded people. Legally, you sign the contract. Psh, severed the contract. And helped Swamiji. Swamiji gave that in the Jewish synagogue, India's message to the West, the ideal of universal religion. Then he met another person, Robert Greene Ingersoll, the famous atheist in America. He ran for president also once. He pounded this orthodoxy of the American people. He told Swamiji, be careful, don't be outspoken. 50 years ago, you would be hanged in this country if you had come to preach. You would have been burnt alive, or you would have been stoned out of the villages. Be careful. Swamiji used to attract more people than Robert Ingersoll in lectures and got very little money. He lost $5,000 from this lecture bureau. At that time, $5,000 quite a bit of money. They cheated him. Traveling with his Gladstone bag, like a Benjigant, from place to place. Once he went to a lecture place, the manager said, please stay in this room. It was a dark room. He was sat on the couch. It sank. He went down. He cannot get up. Then the manager came, Swami, this is the time for your lecture. The audience is waiting. But the audience will have to wait eternally if you do not lift me up from this place. If I try to get up, my clothes will torn, my skin will torn. It is a old couch. How Swamiji was treated. He was coming from Minneapolis. He met a Presbyterian. Where are you from? I am from India. I have not read geography. Tell me, where is that place? Oh, it is just below the globe. Below America, the other side. Globe, below. Oh, then you are a heathen. Yeah, people call me that. But do you know, you will have to go to hell. Well, you know, if your country is so cold at that time, winter time, you do not, if it is not hell, with that Indian heat does not bother us. We are accustomed to that kind of hell. Swamiji gave all kinds of answers. And then he said, do you believe in reincarnation? Well, of course I do. My sister also believes it. Anyhow. He used to give 12 and 14 lectures a week. Swamiji wrote a letter to Biharidas Desai, the one of Junagadh. If another Hindu would just work like me, would die vomiting blood. How much he worked for India and Hinduism. You know, yesterday I went to Mahatma Gandhi Center to give a talk on Republic Day, was yesterday. I tried to tell our people, look, it is Swami Vivekananda who paved the way for us in this country. In Detroit, in Mrs. Bagley's home, let me tell you that what Swamiji said. It is very interesting. 37. Mrs. Bagley invited Swamiji to give a talk, and Swamiji bombarded. He lectured to invited guest in my parlor, Mrs. Bagley. She is a governor's wife. 128, all I could comfort them. In the parlor, 128 people, audience. All I could comfortably sit, and I charged $1 admission. I had included lawyers, judges, ministers, army officers, physicians, and businessmen with their wives and daughters. Vivekananda talked 2 hours on the ancient Hindu philosophers and what they taught. All listened with intense interest to the end. Wherever he spoke, people listened gladly and said, I never heard man speak like that. He does not antagonize, but lifts people up to a higher level. They see something beyond man-made creeds and denominational names, and they feel one with him in their religious beliefs. In one place, Swamiji said, you are not Christians. Swamiji said at the end of this lecture, no, as a nation you are not. Go back to Christ. Go back to him who has nowhere to lay his head. The birds have their nests and the beasts their lairs, but the Son of Man hath nowhere to lay his head. Yours is religion, preached in the name of luxury. What an irony of fate. Reverse this if you want to live. Reverse this. It is all hypocrisy that I have heard in this country. If this nation is going to live, go back to Christ. You cannot serve God and mammon at the same time. All this prosperity, all this from Christ. Christ would have denied all such heresies. All prosperity which comes from mammon is transient, is only for a moment. Real permanence is in him. If you can join these two, this wonderful prosperity with the ideal of Christ, it is well. But if you cannot, better go back to him and give this up. Better be ready to live in rags with Christ than to live in palaces without him. That is a great line of Swamiji. It is better to live in Christ on the street in rags than to live without Christ in a palace. In the same lecture, Swamiji also gave some very superstitious, narrow-minded people. One thing I would tell you, and I do not mean any unkind criticism, you train and educate and clothe and pay men to do what? Missionaries he was talking about. To come over to my country and curse and abuse all my forefathers, my religion and my everything. They walk near a temple and say, you idolaters, you will go to hell. And then you who train men to abuse and criticize, if I just touch you with the least bit of criticism, with the kindest of purpose, you shrink and cry, don't touch us, we are Americans. And whenever your ministers criticize us, let them remember this. If all India stands up and takes all the mind that is at the bottom of the Indian Ocean and throws it up against the Western countries, it will not be doing an infinitesimal part of that which you are doing to us. Another blast that creates such commotion in the pulpits was the following. With all your brags and boastings, where your Christianity succeeded without the sword, show me one place in the whole world. One, I say, through the history of the Christian religion, one. I do not want two. I know how your forefathers were converted. They had to be converted or killed. That was all. It's a Swamiji knew whole history of the world, religion. He said, look, Christianity and Islam used force. They are proselytized. They convert. Hinduism, Judaism are not proselytizing religion. Buddhism is spread through love and compassion and friendship. Anyhow, it is very interesting to read that one American woman wrote 6 volumes like this. Swami Vivekananda in American New Discoveries. Fantastic. She, about this 20, 30, 40 years, she did all research and produced these 6 volumes. Swamiji said, the more I have been opposed, the more my energy has come out always. What happened? The missionaries' income dropped. Their bread and butter are in trouble. Their income dropped drastically after Swami Vivekananda's lectures all over Midwest. Mr. Francis Legage used to give $10,000 per year to the missionaries. But the day he heard Swamiji's lecture, never paid a single penny. So they became mad. It was in Detroit, at a dinner table. Swamiji was about to drink coffee. Sri Ramakrishna appeared before him. Don't drink. It is poison. They tried to kill him because he told the truth. That is, if you read that section after the parliament, how Swamiji struggled, alone, single-handedly, all these missionaries, and how he tried to remove the wrong idea, misconception about Hinduism and other parts of the world. It is a Herculean task Swamiji did for all of us. Thank you very much. Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Surai Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapoharine. Salutations to that king of renouncers and controller of passions, the sage Vivekananda, who is Satchidananda, existence, knowledge, and bliss absolute itself, the spiritual preceptor and the remover of distress. May Swamiji inspire us and guide us. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.